Some could say we went too far. Who knows? The minute on finishing, got paint everywhere. Guys, we've got standout space. I like. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Bryony Yates. I'm an interior designer and I am currently on Interior Design Masters on BBC One with Alan Carr and Michelle Ogundehin, and I am using this time to come and give you a debrief. This is going to be all about week 3. We are now on episode 3. I've made it through, guys, and week 3 was such a different one. Literally week 2 was all about skip diving and week 3 was about bringing the luxe. So it honestly could not have been more different. And we were in teams and we had 3 rooms. The other 2 challenges were just 1 room each. I mean, it was such a jump. It was so different from what we had already done, but it was so much fun. Kicking it off with talking about the team, because I got partnered with Craig and I was so delighted. Genuinely, we all were like, we don't care who we get teamed with. Like, we knew there was going to be teams. We didn't know who we were going to be partnered up with until Michelle told us. And I was so delighted to be with Craig. I mean, we do have really 2 very different styles, but we knew that we just loved each other and we could make it work. And we spoke about things really well, and we definitely had crossovers. We both love vintage and antique and knickknacks and styling, and yeah, so we just knew we could make it work together. So the brief was these gorgeous show apartments, which we had to create and style appropriately so that you could allow the customer to, or potential buyer, to come in and really envision themselves living there. And the brief was for it to be luxe. So we had to make sure we were luxe. We also had to make sure that we kept the nod to the sustainability that we had learnt and tried to show in week 2. And for me, as you know, guys, I was on the sofa on week 2. So for me, this week was just so much about making sure I really show Michelle my style, what I can do, this earthy organic style, but I had to make that luxe and I had to make that really cohesive with Craig. And obviously Craig traditionally likes a ton of color and he's excellent at mixing all of those together, and I am naturally more pared back, more saturated tones. So in theory it could have been a car crash, but spoiler alert, we got standout space and we were so happy with our space. We were so delighted that Michelle and Sue Timney loved it too. And I'm just going to try and talk you through some of the main bits that we did, because guys, there is so much to talk about, and I will let you jump onto Craig's socials to have a look in more detail about all of the things that he made. So I'll just stick to my spaces. So first of all, how we chose to divide the space was different from any other team. And we found that quite interesting. We didn't think we were doing anything like really abnormal or crazy, but we felt that obviously the bedrooms were really easy single entities, as was the entryway, as was the kitchen. And then we felt like that living room and dining was kind of really one space, and it was really important for it to be really cohesive and work, and we really wanted to play into the grandness, and that, you know, that is the moment, that is this showpiece, it's where you spend a lot of your time. So we were like, we think the same person should do that. Craig really wanted the master bedroom. He already had ideas straight away for the hallway, and so I was like, okay, so why don't you do those? I'll take on living room, dining, and the kitchen lent itself, as it was around a corner, to be something a little bit quirkier, could add a splash of colour, so that really lent into Craig. So he took on the kitchen and then I took on the smaller second bedroom. So I'm going to start with how we remained cohesive and what our idea was, because that is where we started, because it was so important to us. We went away, first of all, after deciding how we were going to split the space, and we came together on a Monday. I got to go to the gorgeous home of Craig and Jason, his lovely husband. I also got a salmon lunch, and we ate on this gorgeous terrace with Fifi the cat, and the sun was shining. And honestly, in any other circumstance, if we weren't like, oh my gosh, we can only stop for 15 seconds, so we actually try and get this sorted, then it would have been so lovely. But it was so lovely, but just not as relaxing as what it could be on that gorgeous terrace of theirs. But I digress. So back to the brief. We then looked at budget, and rather than just going, right, you have half and I'll have half, we decided to split the budget according to what we thought each room would need. So we divided that up because we knew that some rooms would be obviously way more furniture heavy, like the kitchen doesn't need any furniture, so it wouldn't need as much budget, for example. So that's how we decided to do that. And then we decided to make it cohesive. We would look at all the colors that we had like chosen ourselves, and we'd both chosen greens, which was great. So we could use this thread of green amongst the whole apartment. Craig had chosen this yellow, and I played with that yellow, kind of turned it into my own tone, a little bit more saturated, still super bold for me. It still took a lot for me to bring this yellow out, but oh my gosh, it worked so well. And then Craig agreed to run the Portland Stone Pale, it's by Little Green, around everywhere in the flat, everywhere in the apartment, and then adding in our colour. But it created a fantastic cohesion throughout. And as it was a show apartment, we didn't want to just throw all of the colours at it in every space. So we really blended our styles on that. Then we had paneling throughout. We both had paneling on our mood boards. Mine was very grand for that room. I wanted to fill those walls. We had 3-meter high ceilings. Obviously, we don't have a ton of budget, so paneling is a really cost-effective way of doing that. Still took up a lot of the budget, don't get me wrong, but it kind of then saved on a bit of artwork here and there as well. And it really worked so well, just making the rooms feel massive, but also just thought about and lovely and cozy. So we both had paneling running throughout, and then we both, as I said before, we both love vintage, antique, all of that. So when we got all of our bits and bobs together, chest of drawers and side tables, we used the same finish on them. So we sanded them down, and we were using the same varnishes or whatever it was that we were using, so that they all had that cohesion throughout. Then teeny tiny styling touches. We wanted Michelle and Sue to walk in and feel like the owners of this apartment had just popped out to the shops. Our lovely couple were Julia and David, and she loves knitting, they love coffee, David is a big reader, you know, so we just had these touches. We came up with a full backstory, but kind of we just knew about these people, and we wanted you to feel them within the space, feel and see what you could do in the space, and hopefully sell it to the potential customer. So we knew that, for example, my knitting would be like the destination that Julia would sit in the spare room. It's not just a spare bedroom, it is an area to craft and to make, and for Julia to have some time out. And the bedroom is also a place for David to read, and they have their coffee. There was 2 little yellow coffee cups on the coffee table in the living room. So we knew that we would run these styling touches, some of them really quite small, but we would run them throughout, and that would also create this cohesive feel. Down to, we even had the same little key cabinet tassels on some of our antique furniture. I mean, if you spotted that, then well done. But some could say we went too far. Who knows? So into more detail of each space, let's start with the living room. So I knew that I wanted the furniture to be really accessible for all ages, so nothing too low, something that feels really solid and holds you well. But I knew I wanted to have this bold moment of colour, and I kind of felt more confident using colour because I was teamed with Craig, so it was just so lovely to work with him on that. And we both loved this sofa, and it was important to me that Craig loved that first kind of really large design choice, because we were going big with that green, and anyway, we both loved it, so that was amazing. And I'm not normally matchy when it comes to like a sofa and an armchair, but there was something about this being a luxe show home that I was like, actually, I feel like that's a bit more contemporary, it's a bit more show home appropriate. So went for the large sofa in that gorgeous bold velvet green, and then also went for the matching armchair to pop into the corner there, which looked so beautiful. Then came the coffee table. I knew I didn't want a hard coffee table. I knew I wanted it to be something that could also be a footstool, and it was also storage. Oh, the dream. It was huge. Oh my gosh, did I panic when it turned up. But I was like, oh, well, we are where we are now. So we've got to make this work. I knew I wanted larger furniture. I knew that I wanted less, but larger, so it felt really purposeful, because I feel like when things feel purposeful in a space, it makes you feel like they were really confident when they designed it, and then you can be really comfortable and confident in the space. So I went large, but I did panic on the footstool. I did panic, but it just worked. It just worked. I don't know. I wanted that area to feel cozy, and it really just helped. It was also on wheels, so you could slide it around easily. And then I placed the gorgeous antique bowl on top, which I was actually quite sad to leave. And that works as like this place to put your coffee cup, and put the vase with the gorgeous flowers, which I actually just nabbed from outside the building. Some may be weeds, some may be flowers. It may all be weeds, I don't know. But they were very pretty weeds if they were, and that's where they lived, and I really loved that. Put some magazines on the table for the styling. Put some bright yellow, the same yellow as Craig's hallway. I found those in some really lovely books, and actually I have one because I got one for myself as like a little memento, because I think there was like 3 and I only needed 2, but I really loved the colour of this. So I got this out the other day, and I forgot I put that over there. Yes, so this yellow, as you would have seen in Craig's hallway, I put on one of my side tables, because I also feel like it's really important to have side tables as well as a coffee table. You know, you don't want to be getting up and moving around the place. So I had lots of places for you to put down your book or your cup of tea or your whiskey, whatever it might be that David and Julia are drinking at the time. That is that area. And then had some gorgeous pillows, mostly I think from Marks and Spencer's. Some of them I bought from Marks and Spencer's, some of them I lucked out and found at the charity shop, but they really brought it into my earthy tone, as did the rug. The rug was this gorgeous bleached jute rug with a black thread running through it, and it was so me. It made me feel so much more comfortable about the kind of contemporary edge that I was bringing to the space. It just made sure that it was bringing me. So I felt really good about that. The cushions did the same thing. And then of course the antique styling did the same thing. Moving through into the dining room, what we had the opportunity to do, or what I had the opportunity to do versus what the other teams chose, where they split their dining and living room, was the use of that middle space. So I wanted it to feel really like it just flows, and it really continues in this lovely way. I didn't want a blank space behind the sofa. It felt a bit, it didn't feel like a great use of the space to me. So I was like, I'd love to have a sideboard in the middle of the room, put a mirror there. It's really purposeful, it's really functional, but it makes the room flow really well. And then that leads you onto, and is a nice break between like living to a sideboard where maybe you've got your glasses on top or whatever it may be in there. And then you've got your dining experience. So it just flowed really nicely. And to me, it made the space feel even grander and just absolutely huge. I can't explain to you enough. When we walked into these rooms, we were like, they were stunning, so naturally light. Windows were huge, ceilings were high. We were like, how are we going to do this in 2 days? I still don't know how any of us did it. But moving on to, no, actually, let's talk about this sideboard. Sideboard was an absolute bargain from people who were moving home and they needed to get rid of some of their old furniture. I think I got it for like £20, and I didn't want to leave it in all its antique glory. It was, I think, a dark stain, because it just wasn't contemporary. I wanted to bring that luxe element. So I chose to paint it this black, which worked out so well. It's one of those things that I think, again, just looks like I've been really confident and purposeful with what I've chosen to do with that space, and I think it made it feel good. Then I was able to use the vintage mirror on top of that, which brought a lovely bit of me into the space. And again, really good purpose. Again, bounces the light, not that the space needed it because it was so light, but it's a really purposeful, functional piece that makes sense and is also beautiful. Also, Craig also had vintage mirror, and I also had a vintage mirror as well. Like, pretty much had a vintage mirror in every space, or a vintage frame in every space. So that was really cohesive. And I wouldn't have been able to have used the vintage mirror above just the antique, like the dark stained sideboard, it would have felt too oldie woldy. It wouldn't have felt contemporary enough for this space that needed to be luxe. So painting that black with the brass mirror, which we used, actually this is a good bit of cohesion, Craig and I used on all of our, like we did for all of our antique furniture, we used the same varnish or stain. On all of our brass that was in the apartment, we used, I have this stuff called Rub and Buff, which is like a teeny tiny tube of a really gorgeous antique gold. It's kind of like a paint, kind of like a powder, and you use a little brush and you just rub and buff. So you can like use a brush or like a bit of cloth or a rag or whatever you've got, and you just rub it all over, and it kind of just made sure that all of our brass or gold elements looked a little bit older. I think in particular, Craig had quite a new, potentially IKEA mirror somewhere, and it really helped just kind of make, you know, bash it up a bit and make it look old. That was a really good touch. I'll link that below if I can find that. Rub and Buff is just amazing, and you need the tiniest amount. Moving on into the dining area, what a steal I got this dining experience for. The dining table and the chairs I got for a total of £40. I got the 4 chairs for £10 and I got the table for 30. The chairs were on a little bit of a state, but I just painted them. They did drink paint. It did take a lot of time, and I did panic when it started to drink it and it looked quite patchy. Persevered, I just kept going, but they painted up really nicely. Again, I used the same varnish on the legs, which matched our furniture around the space. And I also fell in love with those chairs originally, not only because they were £10 for 4 of them, but because the legs were shaped like really, really similarly to Craig's bamboo frames. Loved that little nod of cohesion there. And then I decided to dress the table with quite a luxe experience. So gold and anything that's shiny and kind of beautiful plates, and set it up how you would really want to invite your friends over. With the bright green in my very earthy, briny-eyed vase in the middle there, and that really drew over the green from the sofa and the armchair. And again, that same green was on the floor lamp. I bought a new shade for a gorgeous brass antique floor lamp, which again, that just had a little bit of Rub and Buff on there. And let's talk about lighting. I knew immediately with these ceilings that I was going to do a dramatic dining table light, and I loved this pendant, like fell in love. It was a bit pricey and I was a bit nervous of spending that amount, but I knew that I would just save it back somewhere else, and then I found that dining table for a bargain. So it's all about the compromise on these challenges. I mean, it is in life and normal design, but ever so much when you're on these super tight budgets, it is just all about the compromise. It doesn't mean that you can't have the pricier things, you just need to compromise somewhere else. So this light was wooden beads. It's like a chandelier, but it's earthy because it's just this matte wooden bead, and it's just so me, and it was the perfect blend and just the perfect light for this design. That it had that luxe element because it was a chandelier. It was really bold, it was really impactful, and it was just very me because it was just natural and lovely. And then I used the same light wood touches throughout. I had a rattan tray on my sideboard. I had curtain tie backs that were wooden beads. That could really easily kind of run throughout as well, and hopefully kind of make the eye travel around the space, keeping it feeling absolutely massive as it was. Then wall lights were really important to me on this one, but obviously we have absolutely no money or time for chasing cables into walls, and I didn't think it was very luxe to have any cables just hanging down walls. So I chose battery operated wall lights. Again, a little bit pricier. I got them from Amazon. I will link them below. They were so great, so great. And Piers loved them. He loved them. He put them up for me, and he was like, oh, actually that is quite good. And I was like, sorry, Piers, did you just say you like my battery operated lights? But he did. So he hung those on the wall. I chose, were they black or brass? How can you forget, honestly? But wall lights, I also put these wall lights into my bedroom. Little bit of unison there, enjoyed that. It really, really helped bring the eye up the wall, which brings us on to my paneling. And I'm absolutely obsessed with this paneling. It's the first time I've ever done paneling like this. I've done it since quite a few times now because it's so impactful. So the bedroom, I also had the same paneling but with the dado rail. That was the difference. Craig brought the dado rail into his hallway. There was paneling everywhere. The apartment could take it, and I measured it within an inch of its life, and I actually was so delighted when it turned out I got the measurements correct. I mean, who'd have thought it? But it was amazing. And once the carpenters kind of got going on it and I could see the shape coming together, I was like, yes, this is going to do exactly what I wanted it to. I was just so pleased with how that turned out. So paint was Portland stone pale by Little Green, and it was up all of the walls, and we drenched the radiators up over the ceilings, and it was a gorgeous warm earthy tone, and oh, I just loved it. I loved it so much. I would move in tomorrow. I really would. So that is my living room. And then let's talk about my bedroom. So my bedroom, I wanted to continue the paneling in there, but I also introduced the dado rail. It just felt really appropriate for like a cozy bedroom vibe, and it's that chunkier, and then I really just deliberately wanted to split that in two with that gorgeous blue paint. It's a real lovely like blue grey. It's called Bone China Blue. It's by Little Green, and it really paired beautifully with the Portland Stone Pale by Little Green. And it just felt so cozy, but also that nod to coastal because you could see the sea, and it just felt really light and bright, but also sumptuous. And like you could have a really good crafting session in there. Julia could enjoy her knitting, but also a really lovely place to sleep. Let's talk about the yellow chair. The yellow chair, I knew I wanted a little chair in the corner. I couldn't afford an armchair. I probably would in normal life have an armchair, not a little wooden chair. But it was about showing the intention, and I was like, I want to bring Craig's yellow in here. And I had been super bold with the curtains and been super bold and brave with the curtains in the living room, and I needed to do the same to make sure this cohesion ran throughout. So and this was a last minute decision from me. I was just going to use the same stain, but I called Craig, I think it was the day before we went to Portsmouth, and I was like, would you agree with me that it would be a good idea for me to paint my bedroom chair yellow? And he said to me, darling, not only would I paint the chair, but I would splash it around a little bit. He's posh, isn't he? That was me being Craig's poshness. But he really made me feel like, yeah, like I actually loved Craig so much in this challenge because he made me feel really confident and comfortable to push myself, to bring me, but also really push the boundaries of that. And being partnered with someone as amazing as Craig and so different from me as Craig just was the most beautiful team and partnership. And I just loved this week so much with him. So I painted my chair yellow, and I loved how it turned out. And I also loved the styling in this room. So I used more artwork in this room. I used some beautiful pictures above the bed, again, to draw the eye upward. I grabbed a couple of vintage frames for the space. I tore out some old pages from vintage books, used those as the artwork because I knew I wouldn't have time to create anything because I had spent time making a plaster art. So to the left-hand side of the bed, you will see a frame that is like a bit swirly, and it's got a bit of the blue paint. And basically what I've done is use an old vintage frame. I put polyfiller on it. I say plaster. I put polyfiller on it, and then I used the back of a brush and I kind of make swirly patterns. And then I used paint from everywhere else that we had in the apartment to just have little dabs moments. It was kind of a take on florals, but it had the yellow, it had the blue, and it just gave a nice little bit of color to the wall as well. And again, just trying to bring in that cohesion and just showing something different to Michelle that I can do, that I can craft. Then a little half side table, which is just a really convenient, functional thing to have in a bedroom. Put a little reading light on there, a plant, a couple of glasses to show the intention of styling. Of course, put my knitting onto the bed and showed how Julia would you know, she would come and craft in this space and she would crochet in this space. Even had a couple of crochet magazines, and the cushions fell in love with. Again, I think a lot of them are Marks and Spencer's. I will link if I can, if anything is still available now, but I loved using like poppy moments, more pattern moments to bring that space to life a little bit and make it feel more lived in. I think the soft furnishings really did that, layered up the bed, made it look and feel really cozy. So that is I feel like that's a quick version. It's probably not, but that is a quick version of me running through. There is going to be so much more detail on my Instagram as well, and loads of photos and angles and videos. There's just so much to talk about on this one. I almost feel like I don't know where to start, and I haven't said enough, but there isn't anything I would change on this challenge. And that's a bit nuts, because you literally get a week to design it, 2 days to put it in. Or you know what I haven't discussed is our frames everywhere. We chose to do some family photos everywhere around the space, and that was really important to us, again, for that really like lived in vibe. So that was a really good cohesion. In every space you will see there are family photos in there, in vintage frames and some more contemporary ones, and colors that we've purposefully chosen to kind of match and make good of the space, but also to stand, like as soon as you came into Craig's hallway, on the table there was some family photos, and that was really deliberate. We made really deliberate choices with our styling, and we walked around the space and made sure we could kind of notice each other's, and it just felt like magic, actually, how it came together. Because honestly, if you take our two styles, everyone was like, I have no idea what you guys are gonna come up with. And to be honest, nor do I, because you just have such little time to design. You just keep moving, but it just did come together and it worked so well. But we were to the minute on finishing, let me tell you that. And there was wet paint everywhere, but guys, we got standout space. I still can't believe it, and I'm still so happy about it, and I can't wait to see what you guys think. And thank you so much for coming back. If this is your third time back for the week 3 roundup, then I'm so grateful for you being here. I really am. And I've had such lovely feedback from you guys on my first 2 design chats, on week 1 and week 2 of Interior Design Masters. This very much is going to be a place for me to not only bring you like my behind the scenes and design chat about Interior Design Masters, but also about my real life work and what I do, and showing you insights into that, because I'm just a lover of everything like that. I love like insights into people's lives and behind the scenes, and I do a lot of that over on my Instagram. So if you don't join me already there, please do jump over there and hit that follow button, because I'm on stories pretty much daily, and I post regularly, obviously about Interior Design Masters, but also about current projects that I'm working on. And this week on Interior Design Masters just felt really special to me. It felt like something clicked. I felt like I was really honing in on what I can do and what my style is, but also incorporating those vibrant colors, which probably, honestly, without Craig, I don't think I would have done. So it was a true partnership, and I'm so grateful to him, and I've made a friend for life in him, and also everyone else. But there's no team bonding like the team bonding of being thrust into a situation where suddenly you've gone from designing 1 room on this budget to designing 3 rooms on this budget, and you've got to be cohesive with someone that realistically you haven't known that long. So grateful to him, so happy about week 3, and can't believe it. Made it to week 4. Week 4 is a goodie. It's such a fun one, so make sure you tune into that. We'll see you back here really soon. Thanks guys, bye.